Tomorrow morning, somewhere in the world, you are going to walk into a Starbucks. You will wait in a line. You will pay $6 for a paper cup of warm brown water. And for some strange reason, you will feel like a sophisticated adult who has their life together. On a coffee plantation on the other side of the world, a farmer just got paid 5 cents for the beans inside that cup. 5 cents, $6, 120 times more between the field and your hand. And the wildest part is, you didn't get tricked. You didn't even feel scammed. You smiled at the barista, you took a picture of the foam art, you handed over $6, and somehow you felt like you got a good deal. How does a company convince half the planet to pay 120 times the cost of a product and feel happy about it? Tonight, the cleanest example in modern business of how to sell almost nothing for almost everything. A boy from Brooklyn, an espresso bar in Milan, and one of the most quietly genius decisions in retail history. By the end, you will know exactly what Starbucks is actually selling you. And I will warn you in advance, it is not coffee. Let's begin. Brooklyn, New York, 1953. A small public housing apartment in a neighborhood called Canarsie. A 7-year-old boy named Howard Schultz watches his father come home from work. His dad is a truck driver. He has just slipped on ice and broken his ankle. There is no health insurance, no compensation. Overnight, the family is sliding into poverty. Howard, decades later, will tell this exact story in interview after interview. That moment, he says, shaped his entire life. He decided as a kid that if he ever ran a company, he would treat people differently. He works his way out, football scholarship, first in his family to go to college, a sales job at Xerox, and then at 29, working at a Swedish housewares company, Howard notices something strange in his sales reports. One tiny coffee bean shop in Seattle is ordering more drip coffee makers than the entire department store Macy's. Just one little store. He flies out to find out who these people are. The store is called Starbucks. In 1981, Starbucks did not sell coffee drinks. It sold roasted beans in paper bags. That's it. No espresso, no tables, no baristas. Howard falls in love with the place anyway. He quits his job, talks his way into a marketing role at Starbucks, and a year later, he is on a plane to Italy. Milan, 1983. Schultz is sent to a giant housewares trade show. Halfway through the trip, he wanders out, gets lost in a narrow Milanese alley, and walks into a tiny espresso bar to ask for directions. What he sees next is, by his own account, the most important 60 seconds of his entire career. The bar is small, 12 people inside. An Italian barista is operating a hissing chrome espresso machine like a pianist. He knows every customer's name. He calls them out as they walk in. He shouts back at them. 2 old men by the window are arguing about football. A businessman in a perfect suit drinks his espresso in 3 sips and leaves. Schultz just stands there in the doorway, watching. And in that moment, he understands something the entire American retail industry has not yet noticed. These people are not here for the coffee. They are here for the room, the smell, the hissing machine, the familiar face behind the counter, the 5-minute morning ritual of being someone, somewhere, who is recognized. What is actually being sold in that Italian bar is a feeling, a community, a daily, repeatable moment where you are not at home, you are not at work, and somebody still knows your name. Schultz flies back to Seattle, obsessed. He walks into the Starbucks founder's office and says, "This is not a bean store. This is supposed to be a place, a room, a daily ritual." The 3 coffee purists look at him like he is insane. They refuse. So in 1986, Schultz quits and starts his own Italian-style coffee bar. Then in 1987, when the original Starbucks founders decide to cash out, Howard buys the entire company for $3.8 million. Let me show you, in the simplest way possible, what Schultz actually figured out. Imagine you walk into a pizzeria. You order a pizza. It is $15. You eat it. You leave. 25 minutes, in and out. Now imagine, on the same street, somebody opens a different kind of pizzeria. Same pizza, still $15. But this one has comfortable couches, free Wi-Fi, soft jazz, warm lighting, a pizzaiolo who knows your name. And nobody ever asks you to leave. You stay 3 hours. You work on your laptop. You order a second pizza. Did the pizza change? No. The room around the pizza changed. That is almost exactly what Schultz did with coffee. He did not invent a better bean. He invented a room. And he opened that exact same room in 38,000 locations across 80 countries. So when you pay $6 for a Starbucks latte, here is what you are actually paying for. The coffee bean inside your cup costs the company about 15 cents. The milk, another 40 cents. The cup, the lid, the sleeve, maybe 10 cents. So the product, the physical thing, is under $1. The other $5? You are paying for the rent of the room, the salary of the smiling barista, the light fixtures, the Wi-Fi, the cinnamon smell, the Spotify playlist they custom built for that hour of day. You are paying for the right to sit there for 45 minutes and feel like a person who has somewhere to be. So here is the trick, in one clean sentence. Starbucks does not sell you coffee. It sells you 45 minutes of feeling like someone with a life. And the coffee is just the receipt that proves you paid for it. But here is where it gets a little uncomfortable. Because building a beautiful room and selling a feeling on its own is a perfectly clever piece of business. What is uncomfortable is the math at the other end of the supply chain. On the day you pay $6 for that latte, there is a farmer somewhere, very often in Ethiopia or Guatemala or Vietnam, who got paid between 5 and 7 cents for the beans inside it. 5 to 7 cents for the actual product, the thing without which there is no Starbucks at all. The other 99% of what you paid never reaches the field. It goes to the exporter, the importer, the roaster, the brand, the rent, the lawyers, and increasingly to the tax structure. For years, large parts of Starbucks' European operations were quietly routed through a small subsidiary in Switzerland. Independent journalists and the European Tax Justice Network documented that in some years, Starbucks UK paid almost zero corporate tax on billions of pounds of revenue. For a coffee company that lives off public sidewalks and high street rents in those exact countries. Honestly, when I first read about all this, I sat back in my chair for a minute. Because the room they built really is beautiful. The barista actually is nice. The chair really is comfortable. And almost every dollar of your $6 is not going to the person who grew the bean. Today, Starbucks has more than 38,000 stores in over 80 countries, generating around $36 billion in revenue per year. More than the entire economy of countries like Iceland or Estonia. All of it built on top of one weekend a Brooklyn boy spent getting lost in an alley in Milan. Howard Schultz is, today, in his early 70s. He has stepped in and out of the CEO role 3 separate times. He is worth, depending on the estimate, somewhere between $4 and $5 billion. He still walks into stores, unannounced, to check on the music, on the barista's smile, on the angle of the cinnamon roll in the pastry case. He still talks about that 1983 alley in Milan in almost every interview he gives. He also talks frequently about the boy in Brooklyn watching his dad slip on the ice. In his own mind, Starbucks is not a coffee company. It is a healthcare plan for the people behind the counter. He famously made Starbucks one of the first big American chains to offer health insurance and stock options to part-time baristas. That part is, to his credit, actually true. But the other part of the story, the one we just walked through, is also true at the same time. A farmer in Ethiopia made 5 cents. A barista in Seattle makes maybe $15 an hour. A landlord in Manhattan makes thousands every month. And a man in Seattle, who once watched his father slip on the ice, is now worth more than the entire GDP of some of the countries where his coffee is grown. Here is the part I think about more often than I probably should. Once your brain learns to spot the Schultz trick, you start to see it absolutely everywhere. You walk into an Apple store. You do not really need a new iPhone. But the wood tables, the huge glass, the smiling staff in matching shirts. You are not buying a phone. You are buying a membership to a club where the floor is shiny. You walk into a Whole Foods. The avocados are not better than your normal supermarket. But the warm wood crates, the chalkboard signs, the word artisanal. You are not buying food. You are buying the feeling of being someone who shops at a place like this. Howard Schultz did not invent this idea. The Italians did, in tiny espresso bars, generations ago. But Schultz was the first person to look at one of those alleys in Milan and say, I am going to take this room, copy it 38,000 times, and charge $6 at the door. So the next time you sit down at a Starbucks, the next time you put your laptop on the small marble table, the next time you breathe in the cinnamon, just for 1 second, pause. You are not buying coffee. You are renting a chair. You are renting a smell. You are renting a song. You are renting a smile from a stranger and 45 minutes of feeling like a person with somewhere to be. The coffee, as always, is just the receipt. If your head feels a little rewired right now, that means this video did its job. This channel is about exactly that. We dig into the quiet corners of how money actually moves, and we make them simple, for anybody. If you want more stories like this one, you know what to do. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.